welcome to the Science Faction Podcast, where science meets fact meets fiction.
This is Science Faction for the week of June 8th, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Dominguez, and with me today, two individuals in their own homes.
What's up, everybody? I'm Benjamin Daniel Lawless.
I'm Devon Kraft.
And yeah, the rumors are true. We are not in the same place. And you can probably make out the sounds of our voices this time. Because
yeah, we're not
the
muffled.
audio quality.
There's no rats wrestling in the background.
Right.
Yeah, you know, that's the perils of live recording in the same place. You either have hundreds of dollars of equipment for one little hour-long recording, or you just do what we did. So, sorry, Ben's brother, that it wasn't perfect. No,
I endeavor to make it perfect for him.
Yeah,
and for only him. Everybody else, whatever.
We know it didn't sound good, and sorry about that. But hey, we had fun because it's so rare that we get to come together and record like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Devon. Thanks for making the trip.
Sure. Yeah, and well, it was for work, even though it was for two work things. One of the work things got canceled. The main work thing I went for got canceled, and the other thing was basically nothing.
Okay.
It was something I did not need to be there for. And I wasn't planning on being there for it, other than I was going to be there already, so I went for it. But just as I expected, it ended up being continued because the other party is very bad at their job.
Oh, throwing shade to the other party.
I mean, it's just clearly they're bad at their they're clearly bad at their job. They didn't follow any of the judge's orders. They weren't prepared it was a trial. You're supposed to be prepared. And trials in workers' comp are not like trials you see on TV. There's no jury. It's just the parties and the judge. So it's not as fancy as it sounds.
Make it sound fancy. Use fancy words.
Yeah, it's not, but
okay. Oh, guys, it is once again Science Faction time. Look, this podcast, we're chugging along. We're doing the good thing. We're fighting the good fight. And I want to talk about Captain America: Brave New World.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I watched it.
I've seen this one too.
Yay! Hey. Look at that. Dev, don't worry about watching it. You will not enjoy it. So look, I watched this while Windows were being installed in my house. So, I had to put the subtitles on because there was grinding and cutting happening. Okay, so overall, and this is a problem with the current Marvel movies, it was fine. And that's kind of that's where they're at right now. I think
it was finer than some.
It was finer than some. So for me, the low point in Marvel movies was the Ant-Man series, because I think mostly because I could see the potential and it just didn't live up to it, and so it's fine. As far as an action comedy goes, because those are lean more towards comedy a little bit, and this was a action spy thriller, but it was just kind of fine. The real disappointment, I think, was that Harrison Ford was in it and not the actor who has played that character for years and years and years. And of course, it's because he passed away.
Hurt, right? William Hurt.
Yes, William Hurt. He's been playing Thaddeus Ross since The Incredible Hulk, way back before there was an MCU. And this movie wrapped up his story arc, that character story arc of falling away all of that character. They took this movie to be all right, William Hurt's been doing a great job all these years. Let's actually give him something to do in this movie, because usually he pops up and says some stuff and is kind of a B-list adversary, not really a villain. He just kind of gets in the way a little bit and then kind of disappears. And that's kind of every movie except for the first one. That's kind of what he does. And in this one, there's actually he had something to do. That character had things to do, and it was Harrison Ford, which, Harrison Ford, that's fine. It's just, that's not the character. He played him differently. I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, I think like for me, this film was, I mean, yeah, like I can see that take on it, but I also see it as being something where like some of the best parts of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the series, the stuff that they didn't focus on enough for the series, I think, like they actually started to like, they continued those threads. The entire idea of, well, why would a black man be Captain America? Like in good conscience, and like the fact that they continued to explore that in this was really, really incredible. And I love that, like that central thesis of Captain America now with Sam Wilson as Captain America is like, that is so, it's so ripe.
It's good, but if they had a backbone, they would do the Truth series. They would do Red, White, and Black. Like, show us Isaiah and what the U.S. government did to him before Captain America happened. Like,
and
show
what
us.
Continuing to do to him in this film was not great.
That as well. It was cool seeing the leader. He looked weird, but that's fine. He's they teased him way back in the Incredible Hulk film, and they've just had him in the back pocket ever since. And in this movie they they said why, and that's fine. You had Red Hulk show up. That was fine. The previews made it look like maybe it was going to be more than what it was, but it was just the third act big fight was all it was, and then it was over. And I was like, oh, that's it? Okay.
Can a Marvel movie be made that doesn't have a third act big fight?
No, that's well, okay. Look, that's what you come for.
Not anymore.
No. Listen, you show up. There's a fight, and then they talk, and then there's a little fight, and then they talk, and there's a big fight, and there's credits, and then there's a tease. That's every single Marvel movie. that is their template.
That's true.
Yeah, so
but that Marvel movies are also like not as popular anymore. And maybe it's in part to that format.
I do not disagree with you, but that's what the format is. So like I think that's like this latest grouping of Marvel films have been like stick to this rigid template because it's successful, but it's not, because that's not what it should be. And I haven't seen Thunderbolts. And according to internet, it's a decent, really good movie. And so I want to see if it breaks that mold at all and what they do differently. So anyway, that's it. I watched it. It was fine. I'm glad. I'm not glad, but like if I kind of wish I would have seen it in the theater, just because, it's fun to see action movies in a theater and not while there are windows being installed in your house at the same time. But beyond that, I don't feel bad about watching it on Disney Plus because now, it was cheaper. So it's fine.
Yeah. So like it's something that you're okay with not staying on the bleeding edge of the of what's going on there anymore.
Yeah, because there was nothing bleeding edge about the movie.
I think it is fascinating that it took them, like they released Thunderbolts before they put this on streaming, like in theaters, like
okay.
I don't know. I mean, I imagine that like there is a world in which if Marvel didn't want to extract every ounce of value out of theatrical releases that they possibly could, which is that that if they wanted people to keep up with this sprawling universe, and you know what, money,
it's a business.
Money.
I mean, that's what you got to realize about the world that we live in is it's money. And also like there's the behind the scenes stuff where like the latest round of Marvel movies besides Thunderbolts was under like it's all Kevin Feige still, but there's a step above him. And I don't know if it's like the Disney people or what, but that person has changed. And so Thunderbolts was the first movie under like the new like direction, and it seems like they're going back to like how things used to be, more creative control, less template, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see what they do. We'll see what's going on with Avengers Doomsday and all that stuff coming up.
Just found people are using AI for therapy.
Sorry.
What is happening? Are you losing? Our computers taking over?
They are taking over. I apologize. I'm trying to find another link for something I'm going to talk about later, and it's just not working. So never mind.
It happens. All right. Well, so yeah, I watched that. Windows were being installed. I have all brand new windows in the house now, which is great because now they're not leaky and bugs aren't coming in and stuff. Needed to happen. They were old.
You've been using Windows 95 for a long time.
Way too long.
Bugs.
Really, it was more like Windows 90 is how old these windows were. A lot of bugs. Yeah, and this last Thursday was the kids' last day of school, and the Windows finished getting installed that day. And my nephew came to be babysat for several days, and my kid had her first gymnastics class that day, and there was a barbecue to celebrate the last day of school with some friends. It was an intense Thursday. That Thursday, at the end of that day, I was like, I'm done. It felt like a Friday, but it wasn't. And then time keeps on going. So,
how was your Friday though?
Let me think. My Friday was full of like kid stuff because kids are out of school. I had my nephew here, and so it was just kid stuff all day. Same thing as yesterday. Saturdays, kid stuff all day, except Martine was involved because she's here. To rewind just a little bit back to Monday was my mom's birthday.
Oh,
and
happy birthday, Steven's mom.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't listen, so you can say whatever you want about her. No, she.
You're a kind and wonderful person, and I really appreciate every time I get to see you.
Oh.
Steven's
I
mom.
tell her you said that.
Yeah, she's not going to take too kindly to that. Anyways, a while back when I started doing this blacksmithing stuff and I showed her a hook I had made, she was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And she hinted that her birthday was coming up soon. So I actually ended up making her a set of 5 hooks. And so I've been doing that steadily over the past couple of weeks. And then on Monday I had to like finish them up, which they were almost done anyway. Finish them up, drilled some holes in them for the screws or nails, and had to seal them with beeswax and file off the sharp bits. And one last bit of blacksmithing, and some metal scale flew on the top of my hand, and so now I got another big old burn mark. I'm getting the blacksmith scars now. It's fun times, but yeah, blacksmithing's still going, and that's been a lot of fun.
Dude, rad.
Yeah, it's nice. Good stuff. It's fun. What else is going on, guys? That's all my stuff.
I mean, since we're both in the same school system, Thursday was the last day of school, and one of Flint's friends was like, Flint had made plans to hang out with him after school, and I was like, well, I've got the day off, so I took the kids to the beach.
Oh, nice.
I'll tell you that, number one, like the weather was perfect. We had perfect weather in our hometown, and then when we drove, 25 minutes out to the beach, it was the same weather. And I was like, oh, okay, this is nice.
Yeah.
Which is so rare around here, where like usually it's either overcast where we live and then super sunny at the beach, or vice versa. This was just like perfect, nice. Happy little early June day. And I'll tell you that, like, one thing, when I came across this interesting saying that recently, that's like the antidote to a lot of the ills of how you feel throughout the day is awe. So, right. And so, like, I felt that quite a bit when looking out over the ocean and seeing the waves come through. And if you can find it, look for it.
Wait, that's backwards. If you can find it, look for it.
Oh man, dude, there is not enough coffee.
That's why I'm drinking Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, established 1948. 0 calories, lots of caffeine.
That's why I try to take naps, because there's not enough coffee.
Oh man.
Yes. Yeah. No, like it's amazing how life and everything has been changing almost on a pivot point. But there's one thing that doesn't change, which is the capacity for new music to make you feel like you're in your early 20s again. And that is a segue into the fact that Yellowcard is coming out with a new album in October, and they just released 2 singles from it.
Okay, hold on. Yellowcard.
Yeah. Yellowcard.
People will know that from Ocean Avenue was like a big hit.
Yeah.
That's coming to mind.
Yeah.
And there's
that was their big album. That was like their breakout album, their 3rd album.
Was there is it like a fiddle player that's with them? What is that?
Yeah, they have a violinist.
A violinist?
Yeah, they're a pop punk band with a violinist.
That was their hook. That's right. Okay. And so have they been consistently coming out with music, or has this been like, oh, it's been 10 years and now here's an album?
They broke up in 2017.
Oh no.
Actually, that was like their 2nd breakup.
Oh. That's just
one of those
trauma and abuse.
Right. Yeah. But like 2017 was like they did like an actual farewell tour,
Oh, okay.
And then
so they're liars too.
Which I saw them. I saw them at the farewell tour because
farewell.
Yeah. But they and then I think I want to say 2 years ago they came out with an EP that was pretty decent. And then this time what was interesting is that like I saw some so I found out about it because there's a new music video called Better Days, and the music video is awesome, but like in the credits for the music video, it listed Travis Barker on drums. Travis Barker from Blink-182.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting. And like the drums did sound quite a bit different than what they'd done before. And I found an interview with them. And okay, number one, Better Days is a banger. Like it's just incredible, the song. And I'm really excited about the album coming out in October.
So besides Travis Barker, I mean, he's a drummer. Is the rest of the band the same, or is it like different members and stuff?
That's a very good question.
You don't know.
So you know what? Out of the 4 members of the band that is listed on the music video, I recognize 3 of those names. So I don't recognize Josh Portman. I'm sure I could look it up on Wikipedia and see whether or not he's been with the band for a long time. But Ryan Key, Sean Mack, and Ryan Mendes have been part of Yellowcard for a very long time.
Okay.
And
so 3/5 of the original band is there?
Yeah. Well, like I
what a compromise.
I saw like an interview with Ryan Key and Sean Macken where they were talking about it, and they're like, hey, we've been touring, and our touring drummer, we don't have a contract with them to record like a new music with them.
Oh, okay.
The contract is only for them to play on tour with us. So when I guess basically Travis Barker invited them to come out to his studio and record with him, and that's kind of the genesis of this album.
I can't imagine Travis Barker like looking at him. I don't know much about the guy, but I just kind of always assumed he lived under a bridge somewhere with like a bunch of drum kits, and he just emerges to play.
I mean, he has enough money that he can do what he wants. I'm not sure which bridge he lives over or under, but
it's a really nice bridge.
It's the best bridge.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like Blink made it, but it was interesting too is that they were talking about how they really wanted to have the feeling of Ocean Avenue again. But how do you write that when you're 43 and not 23?
Yeah.
And the answer is you get Travis Barker to play on drums. and that it just like that feeling, when you're playing with a founding member of Blink-182, like you get into that headspace
That mindset.
pretty easily.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
right on.
And so I very much recommend y'all watch the music video for Better Days. If it's your jam, there's more to come. If it isn't, well, hey, there are other things in the world.
There's so much in this world. I mean, you could just get some rocks and throw them at cars. All right. Well,
sure. Or you could pick it up,
and then throw it.
What is you've got a thing with throwing today?
Well, yeah, because the LA community has come together to throw rocks at ICE vehicles as they're driving away in fear, and I'm here for it, and I'm rooting for them.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's a big LA's going no. Collectively, they're saying no to ICE, and it's been fantastic to watch. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah. Well, now Trump has nationalized the National Guard to go in and
of course,
do whatever.
Yeah, we got a whole Gorman situation going on here. We've talked about that in the pre-pod. That this is Andor. Spoilers for Andor season 2 is happening in LA right now. Cool. Is there are they building a Death Star, you guys? Like, I know Star Wars is not real, but like, what's the big thing that's being hidden from us that this is distracting from?
I mean,
I think what people have said
everything.
that this is being used to distract us from Trump and Elon breaking up.
Yeah, that's a mess.
Get our attention away from that.
Or is that just? I mean, like, all of it is just distraction. It's not.
No,
of the dismantling of a bunch of things that we have collectively enjoyed as being part of a modern society that
the big beautiful
is changing.
Bill. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the fun podcast. Yay! Let's get to our next segment called Future or Now.
Now.
So Devon, you according to this, it says I'm a terrible human and a hypocrite is what it says here. What's that about?
Yeah.
Tell me
All
about
right. Well,
that.
it's funny that we go from one sad dystopian topic to another, which is what I'm going to talk about.
Spoilers.
Also, that this section is called Future Now, and the book I'm going to be talking about is called Animal Liberation Now. Although the original was written, I think, in 1975. Animal Liberation Now is the reprint from 2023, I think.
Okay.
And it has it's like 2/3 new material. Anyway, where do I start? So this is a book about animal rights.
Okay.
And it's by Peter Sanger. And first of all, why would I read such a book? There's a YouTuber called Alex. His name's Alex O'Connor. He's a philosopher. I watch a lot of his videos. I agree with him pretty much all the time. He's an atheist, but he's very open-minded. He talks to a bunch of different people. He actually got famous when he was still in college. He's British, so he was going to university there. But he would debate like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, famous conservative commentators.
Okay.
And he would be arguing from the liberal perspective. But so he on one of his videos was like, if people have always asked me like, what books should they read? And so he had a list of books that he put out. And so I've been reading a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the books I've been talking about are actually from the books that he's recommended. And one of them was this book, Animal Liberation Now, because he's a vegan, and a few of the books on the list are about animal rights. So the original book, Animal Liberation, is kind of the founding animal rights book from the 70s that kind of sparked the animal rights movement in the United States. Not that it didn't exist in some form before that, but this was kind of what like made it more popular. So, and he said, Alex O'Connor's like, everyone he's recommended this book to has turned into a vegan. And I'm like, well, I've always actually kind of felt like being a vegan made sense from an ethical perspective, but I just don't have the willpower to do it. And so I'm like, if I read a book like this, will that finally get me to become a vegan? And it hasn't, clearly, if you know me. I wish I could be. I'm still in the same position of like, now more than ever, I'm like, yeah, it's wrong to eat meats, and it's certainly wrong in the way we do it with factory farming, which is just terrible, and we can get into some of the details of that. But unfortunately, that's why I titled it "I'm a Terrible Human Being and a Hypocrite." I got the "I'm a Terrible Human Being" from what we talked about, I think, in the pre-pod about Bye Felicia. Was that in the pre-pod or on the podcast?
No,
that was a pre-pod.
That was pre-pod. That's for
pre-pod,
that's for the patrons only.
Yeah, so I was a terrible human being for that already, and then I'm also a hypocrite for after reading this book. So it's a whole, there's a lot of aspects to it. So I'm gonna try to cover it as briefly as I can. I did take notes when I read it, and I read it a few months ago. I was planning on talking about it then, but I just never did. So the first part of it is, the more philosophical aspect of whether animals should be treated equally, or at least treated as if they should have some rights. Maybe not equal to humans, but should have some rights, and where would those rights come from? And it kind of comes down to the ability to suffer. And so that gets into kind of the questions about consciousness. Do animals have consciousness? And thus, do they have the first person perspective or the ability to have any kind of feelings? And the only way we can tell that is by doing experiments or by observing animals in situations where it appears that they feel pain. And it's not hard to imagine, if you hurt an animal, they do obviously appear to have pain. But the testing can get a bit more specific. Like if there's a situation where an animal would feel pain and you gave them pain medications, does that pain medication then relieve their pain? And it appears that it does. And they've even gone down to they go to like fish. Like, fish are kind of like, there's pescatarians, people like, I don't eat meat, but fish, fish are so simplistic that there's no way that I can think that they really feel pain, or it's so minimal it doesn't matter. They've done experiments where they've had fish in like a tank, and they've had part of the tank have like electrical shocks, and all the fish go away from the shocks. They can feel what's happening and try to avoid it. So avoidance behavior is clearly an indication that they can experience pain. So then there's that. So why should we care? Because they can experience pain, and it appears that they do. We can never know for sure. We can never know for sure that anybody experiences anything, other than you can only know that what you experience. But we can use objective empirical data to try to determine that. So there's that. And then he goes into this is where, so he goes over the history of how people have used animals for testing. And it's pretty close to the beginning of the book. And he talks about in the 60s how there was a particular scientist who did experiments on monkeys. And it gets pretty horrific. Like, I was listening to this in the car on my way to get groceries. And I was like walking into the grocery store being like, almost like with my eyes watering a bit. Cause I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe you would do this. And it's like to baby monkeys. And so I don't want to get into the specifics because, like I said, it's pretty disturbing. But it's interesting. It does prove a point, because in another book I read recently, Sapiens and Homo Deus, which I talked to you guys about, by the author, and he's actually, I have it here, Yuval Noah Harari, who actually did the introduction for the 2023 version of this book. And so this author actually brings up some of the same points and talks about some of the same experiments, because in his books, he's talking about how humans have affected the planet and how we affect our environment and what terrible things we've done to other animals and other, things in our environment. And so he actually talks about some of the same experiments, but not in so much detail. And so it is kind of important to say, again, how animals experience the world. Like, they've evolved to have the same kind of emotions similar emotions that humans do, such as, you know, parents wanting to care for their children and children wanting to be, you know,
cared for,
protected by their parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's one experiment that he talks about is, which is what is talked about more detail in Animal Liberation Now, how they take baby monkeys and they take them away from their mothers, and they have two representations of what would be a mother monkey. One has like a soft and, you know, more appealing, and the other one is just like this metal frame. But the metal frame has will produce milk, like it has the, you know, something to drink milk off of. And so they're like, which one will the monkey go towards? Will it want to be, obviously the one that is uninviting has what it needs to survive. The other one, of course, is cuddlier, but it won't give them anything so that they can eat. And of course, the monkey will go towards the softer one, and will try to hang on to the softer one while it, you know, reaches over to try to get milk from the other one. And what they did was they increased the so they made it so that the softer one would like have like jets of air shooting out to try to make it so the monkey wouldn't want to be
Why
by
are
that
they
one.
doing this? What is this supposed to prove?
Yeah, so that's the other thing. They go through. So basically, it turns out, of course, a baby monkey wants to be with a parent that seems to be more inviting, more, you know, cuddly and fluffy, even if that thing is trying to repel it, and even if the other thing that isn't inviting has what it needs to live. So this is just one of the experiments, and they get worse and worse. But the point being that monkeys, like other animals, have evolved the same kind of things that humans have with their babies, the same types of emotions and relationships. And in Sapiens, he talks about like how cows, like to get milk, we artificially inseminate female cows so that they have calves, so that they produce milk. Then we take the calves away. And we know from these experiments and from, you know, correlations with how humans feel that they, of course, want to be with their children, and their children want to be with them. And as you do this, they show signs of wanting to do that with how they, you know, make sounds and how they act. And it's horrific that we force them to have kids and then take those kids away. Which, as a tangent, this is something that Woody Harrelson brought up at an award show once. I might have even been like the Oscars. And he was ridiculed for it, like, oh, this crazy guy, like talking about how we treat cows and how it's like, oh, we take their milk and stuff. And even I at the time was like, okay, yeah, it's probably a bad thing, but come on, it's just ridiculous. But when you think about it, no, it's pretty horrific. And how they have those emotions because they've evolved them the same as all other animals, or at least all other mammals, and they experience that. And we keep doing it because we want the cows to keep producing milk.
As a quick sci-fi tangent, this was also included in Mad Max, Fury Road, and Furiosa.
Yeah, as
like the mother's milk thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, instead of cows, it's women. But yeah, like this is just a sci-fi tangent there. But back to real life. Yes.
Yeah. So just to get off this topic, I mean, that's kind of all like trying to show why we would care about animals and how we can determine that they have similar, you know, inner lives that humans might have. Not to the same degree, but there's something there. And so do we have a right to treat them this horrifically and even kill them? And he goes into other, like, you can imagine how many terrible things he talks about, but if you're interested, read the book. But so the other thing, getting specifically into like factory farming, there's that aspect for just milk, but of course there's, you know, breeding chickens that can't even stand up because we need them to have so much meat on their bodies, that it's more about the meat that we need than as opposed to having those chickens live a life that is even remotely tolerable. It's like they're crammed into cages where they can't move, and then of course they can't stand up, and probably not a great life for them just to be slaughtered, and things like that. And what we, you know, so there's that for food, and that's about factory farming. And you can think about, you know, there's ethical farming. Like we could say if a cow lives a natural life, and then, you know, at some point later in its life, if we either kill it or it dies naturally, can we eat the meat? That does seem more ethical. And so we could do that. But of course, you're not going to feed nearly as many people with that. So it's a lot of the consumers who obviously, promote this type of factory farming because it's needed in order to fulfill the demand. So factory farming, and then there's testing on animals. Not necessarily testing we're talking about to test them for their own psychological behavior, but just testing, like we need to test medications because we need to know if they're safe for humans. And of course, you can imagine all the terrible things we would do to animals to test the things for humans, like how we would injure an animal in order to test like surgical procedures and different things. So you have to do that to an animal in order to be able to see if the thing you're testing actually works. He goes over how a lot of those things are unnecessary, and he makes a good point of, well, if we're going to say that animals are so different from humans that it's okay to treat them differently, then isn't it possible that the things we're testing on the animals are too different from humans to be a reasonable corollary for humans? It's like, oh, well, they're so different that it's fine if we treat them terribly. But they're so much like humans that we can test these things on them, and then those things should also work for humans. So which is it?
Yeah.
Are they a lot like humans, and so we should treat them like humans, or at least somewhat like humans, or are they so different that the things we're doing to them might not transfer to humans? And then he talks about more getting back more in the philosophical arguments of people saying like, well, animals are too different from humans and for us to worry about them in this way. And then arguing like, okay, well then let's do the thought experiment of how dumb, how dumb, because they say dumb animals, how I don't want to say disabled, I don't know what the word would be. How reduced in mental acuity would a human have to be for us to say we should treat them like an animal? And most people would say, well, no, there's never a situation where someone is, has a mental disability to where we would say they don't matter. They don't have human rights because they're so mentally impaired. We would never say that. But then where's the line that we draw to say that humans are so much better, even if it's a human, even if an animal, we can pick plenty of animals that are smarter than a human might be, depending on the situation, and yet we're okay killing that animal, but we would never kill that human. Because is there anything more than just saying a human is different than an animal? A human inherently has more rights than an animal. You could say that. Religious people would certainly say that. They would say that, humans are endowed by the creator to be certainly different. And that's why they don't like evolution, because evolution puts us on the same footing as animals, because we all came from the same place and we're all just the same type of thing living in the same environment. We just, evolved to be different than those other things, but we're still just those things.
Yeah.
So as someone who is an atheist, who is a materialist, how do you draw that line to say humans are so much more special than other animals? And for me, that's hard to do, because I agree. I don't see where that line can be drawn. And for people who kind of maybe have a hybrid understanding of the world, who might be like, whether you believe in God or not, you still feel humans are special. It's like, again, how do you justify that? Where do you, what principles are you using, and where do you draw that line? And that's hard to do. And again, like for me, I'm like, well, I agree. I don't think I can draw that line, but yet I eat meat. And I, what testing that has been done on animals that has been beneficial to humans, I take advantage of for sure. So there's the philosophical aspect of it, of how do we treat animals and why should we have a division between animals and humans? And then the actual, like, how do we treat animals, and is that okay? And like, where should that line be drawn? Like, we can still eat animals, but we have to treat them ethically. It's like, okay, well, what ethical principles do we use, and how do we draw that line, and how do we satisfy the demand, or can we reduce the demand? Can we teach people, look, meat should be a special thing, it should be rare. Sure, of course it should be rare. You shouldn't overcook meat, that tastes terrible, but you should eat meat on rare occasions. It should be a special thing. It should be like, it's expensive, and because there's not as much of it, and it was ethically produced, and you can look forward to eating it on occasions when it's a special thing. And of course, that's another aspect of it, the social justice aspect of it, as being from a rich country where we would have the the ability to make these decisions, whereas in other countries they don't. It's like,
Yeah.
look, we have our animals, we need to eat them because that's the only choice we have. So there's also the aspect of who has the privilege to make these choices. But the counter to that, I'm sorry, this will be the last thing I say about it.
No, it's all right, man. Like
Continue.
What was the word? Did I write it down? I wish I did. Calorie conversion or calorie efficiency. I don't think I wrote it down. But the other part though is meat really that much better for us? I mean, there's, it causing cholesterol and all those things, but are we actually getting more calories from meat than we would from if we just ate the plants that the animals eat that we then consume? You don't get the same calories. You actually, because as you go up the food chain like that, there's less efficient use of calories. So if you actually just produce plants or if we were all vegans, you actually could produce more calories and get more calories to humans more efficiently than going through the process of having animals eat those plants, converting those calories into meat, and then that meat going into a human. You actually are losing calories in that process.
Right. Like there's something where it's like for every hamburger you eat, that was so many gallons of water and so many pounds of feed or grass or whatever is what's been eliminated so that you can have your one hamburger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the shipping it and all the other things that go into producing it that of course produce CO2, which contributes to global warming and climate change. So the whole thing is really a net negative for us personally, ethically, and for the environment.
Yeah.
So I've always been like and forgive me, I'm kind of challenging a particular assumption right now that there was a real reason nutritionally why it's very difficult to be vegan. What is that? If
I think it's the protein.
Okay.
I think getting enough protein, and I think you can get that protein from other sources, but I think you're right in that, like, if the whole world was vegan, we would have to figure out a way to make sure everybody got the right variety of nutrients, including protein, to make up for that loss. So you're right. I don't know enough about that to speak on it intelligently, but yeah, that is a good point. And I don't know the answer to that.
But I mean, like, I think that what you were saying, like, cause oftentimes when I'm planning out the week's meals, I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I hit meat, carbs and veggies in every meal as much as possible. And it's like, well, hey, that's not necessary,
In every meal? Wow.
More or less. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Well, again, that's not necessary. That is a challenge I get to, I get or an assumption I get to challenge.
Yeah.
That like, or at least
that's a good
day,
question. Right? And I actually would want to look that up because you're right. Not only you as an individual wanting to eat a healthy diet, if that was a vegan diet, but also if ideally everybody was a vegan, how would you satisfy that need? And that would be something you'd have to solve if it's in fact a problem, which it could be for sure.
I mean, the thing here is that the number. So like when we're talking about like efficiencies and running things at scale, those two things seem to be at odds, right? So like we have like everything from how work is done to how our government in America right now is being run. All this stuff, like there are benefits to not being efficient. There are benefits to like, to people keeping their jobs. There are benefits to society here where like the inefficiencies that we have actually are healthy because they are human based. Like there is a lot of quality that you get from having people do things rather than just relying on computers to do them all. And
that's absolutely.
And so
it would be a huge societal change. It's not something you could do overnight. You'd have to plan for it.
Right.
The counter to that would be like it's extreme, to put it in these terms, but
Sure.
if you believe that animals should have same rights or similar to the same rights as humans, so what if it would affect humans? If the
Mhm.
Holocaust is going on, you don't say we can't stop killing people because it's going to put people out of their jobs.
Right.
It's, if you
Yeah.
believe it in those extreme terms. But you're right.
Yeah.
No, it would be a huge societal change, and then those people would have issues. And
Well,
when it
I guess
comes to
what
the
I'm
people working, yeah,
yeah, I guess what I'm getting at here is that, like, for example, I'm kind of taking the opposite stance. The idea here is that when you were talking about milk production, right, and the fact that
mhm,
like there is probably a large portion of the population that does not require milk, like cow's milk, from a at the age that they're still drinking it, but are still drinking it, and so that requires it to be made at a scale that is unsustainable and is creating these problems.
mhm.
Because the
Okay.
demand is there, but the demand has no like basis for it nutritionally, nor
Look, there were commercials that said "got milk," and then we got the milk. What else do you need?
yeah, right. And so yeah, marketing, right? This is a marketing challenge as well.
Money, 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 money,
Yeah,
money, money.
if we can find a way where we can market doing the right thing, uh,
I mean,
then
it comes
that
down
could
to
help.
ethics, right? How do we
Mhm.
ethically have food?
I-
And
in in a
yeah,
world where we can't really agree on what human rights is, um,
yeah. How
can
do
we
we deal with the
start
animals if we
with
can't figure
animal
out
rights?
humans?
Yeah, but can we go backwards? Can we find a way to find out what human rights are by like starting with animal rights? And if we can have a little bit of sympathy and empathy for these creatures that we're right now considering to be subservient, and then perhaps we can unlock a new way I mean, this is me speaking from a viewpoint of reading Becky Chambers' work.
That's what's beautiful about Becky Chambers' work is that she considers these things.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't. Well, it's a couple things. I know we're going too long, but
Hmm.
an interesting thing was finding people to work in slaughterhouses. He said, like, people who run slaughterhouses are like, you don't really have to apply for the job, just show up because we lose, like, there's so much turnover from people being disgusted by what's going on in here that just show up and you'll get a job because we need people willing to do these jobs. Um, and then a different aspect of it is how the public views animal treatment or treatment of animals, where, actually it was in a video by Alex O'Connor again, but he was talking about, I don't remember what exactly was, but there was a video online of somebody abusing an animal in some way. I don't know if it was a dog or maybe even it was just like a cow or something. And all the comments were like, "This is terrible. That person should be, put in jail. And how would you like it if someone did that to you?" And then, of course, the obvious reply is like, "Okay, so everyone's saying this is a vegan? Like, you guys don't eat meat? You don't eat,
Mhm.
or at least you don't eat from factory farms where literally millions, if not billions, of animals are treated like this or way worse
Yeah.
constantly?" Like, good, you have ethics to say that animal shouldn't be abused, but yet you eat meat from animals that have been abused and worked. I mean, again, the numbers are staggering. It's not, it's
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
walk into any grocery store in America, and there are animal parts in there, like they came from living, breathing things. Yeah,
yeah. Well, in the whole vegan thing, I'm like, okay, what if I tried not to eat meat? Oh man, I can't. But vegan is like no milk, no butter. Everything I eat has milk and butter in it.
Mm.
Like that's
yeah.
like I think I could, if I really wanted to and really tried, I could probably not eat meat itself. But to go full vegan, I'm like, I can't do it. Like,
Well, I mean,
which is
there's
terrible. Like, I hate myself for that. It's like
veganism
I completely
seems
agree with the ethics of it.
a bit
Yeah.
extreme to me, like getting milk from cows or goats, or there's so many sources of milk that we could get to turn into cheeses and other things that can be done ethically.
It can be.
And so if we turn to a society to do that, then I think that would be fine. And even like chicken eggs, that's a great source of protein that doesn't hurt the chicken at all. And if the chickens are treated correctly, well, first of all, you get more eggs, but like that can also be done ethically. There's an ethical way to do these things. Like just the problem is we all have to have a little farm on our land, and not everyone can do that because we have big cities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the issue. Because I've lived with vegetarians. They do fine with eating vegetarian things and are healthy. Yeah. Yes.
I'm just looking at my notes. There's so much more stuff.
No, we need to move on.
I know. I'm just like, I was mostly going off the top of my head, but I should have looked at my notes because there's so many different things. But yeah, I could talk about this probably for hours. Anyway.
All right. Well, we are going to move on because this is a long podcast, and so now we don't have time for other things, and that's okay. We are going to take ourselves a little break, save some of this stuff for next week. And when we come back, we are doing our book club where we have been reading A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, and we will talk about the chapter discrepancies when we come back. So we'll be right back. Hey you, you sitting there listening to this for free like some kind of podcast freeloader. Look, I'm not saying you owe us, but if you enjoy our deep dives into AI, space, and comic book mayhem, maybe toss a coin to your podcasters. Join our Patreon, get into our Discord, grab some exclusive content, and finally achieve that deep, satisfying sense of superiority over your non-Patreon listeners. Just imagine their sad, uninformed little faces. Patreon.com/Science Faction Podcast, because knowledge is power, and power is best hoarded behind a paywall. And we're back.
Heyo.
Hey.
Here it is.
And a big thank you to our patrons, Renee and Josh. You guys keep the lights on around here, such as they are.
Keep those recorders recording. All right, so let's talk about A Psalm for the Wild Build chapters. So we're getting we had a big discussion pre-pod about this because the chapter listings on Audible are different from the digital book, which is different from the physical book.
Right. And so this time, none of the three of us are reading the physical book, right? So we can just throw that out the window, and then I'll catch it from Stephen's place, and I'll hold on to that book.
You hold on to it
forever because I love this book.
It's really good. So next week we are reading book chapters 2 and 3, which I think would be the same if you had the physical book. But those are Audible chapters 4 and 5. For some reason, Audible has like their little like intro, like this is Audible, like that's chapter 1, but it's not.
Oh.
And so
that wasn't in my version.
Yeah. So this week, A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, chapters 1 through 3, or dedication and chapter 1.
Yeah, a change in vocation.
Right, because the chapter 1 has a name, a change in vocation.
Each chapter has a name in my version. Yeah.
Every time you say in my version, it seems like you're like it's better or something.
That is what I am implying, Stephen. You are not wrong.
You son of a gun. Oh boy. Yes. Also last week we watched the Rick and Morty. We didn't really talk about that, did we? Yeah. The new season of Rick and Morty. It's so hard to watch that show.
Why is it hard?
Well, when you're not sailing the high seas, it's hard.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes, understood.
Or have cable.
Yeah, anyways. So A Psalm for the Wild Built, Becky Chambers, the dedication and chapter 1, which is called Ben.
A change in vocation.
A change in vocation.
But I think that let's just start off with the dedication because I think this is really important. It says for anybody who could use a break.
Oh, don't we?
Right. And that's that, like, hey, y'all, things are rough out there. Maybe you could use a break. And you might not feel like you could use a break, but you probably need one.
Yeah.
And you deserve one. So hey, here's a wonderful book by Becky Chambers that gives you a little nice warm hug in a great sci-fi story, and I'm here for it. Thank you, Stephen, for letting me borrow the physical book years ago.
You're welcome.
And then I'm thankful for being able to read it again with y'all. So
let's talk about this world.
Yeah.
There is a discussion about which gods the robots belong to. That's getting a little ahead of ourselves. So, first of all, this is not Earth, or I don't think this is Earth, because they talk about a couple of moons or something. I think this is like a moon of something.
It's a moon of another planet.
Yeah. So this is not Earth.
So the moon is called Panga, and I can't recall the name of the world that they're orbiting.
Yeah, I don't know either. But this moon, this Panga, has one big continent, and it is now divided in two, with one half being left to nature and the other half being colonized by humans at some point in their past. Also, at some point in their past, the robots said, hey, we're sentient now, and we don't want to do this anymore. And the people said, you can become part of our society if you want. And the robot said, no thanks. We're going to go live in nature. And they took off. And they haven't been seen since.
And the humans, in remarkably unhuman-like fashion, based on the history of
humanity,
our planet, basically said, well, hey, we respect that. You guys are sentient.
That's cool.
And so, like, good luck. Like,
and
we'll figure it out.
That's the biggest piece of science fiction in this entire book, is that humans were like, that's fine. I mean, really, what divides, or not divides, but what is different about this book and a lot of science fiction books that deal with humanity and robots and things like that, there is no war. There is no and then we fought until
wait. No. There's no. It's not gonna. I thought this was building up to like a war.
Nope. Sorry.
I'm kidding.
No wars. No wars here. Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, that's so different for a sci-fi book.
I was waiting for Skynet to come up.
I mean,
the robots looked at what they were doing in the kind of their version of the Industrial Revolution, and they said, why are we helping the humans make this moon uninhabitable for humans? Like, that doesn't make sense, and we're going to stop. And humans were like, hey, you're right.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so all the robots left. And humanity hasn't seen them. They're respecting the boundary, and so then humanity moved on. And so the world that is described to us, and so that's all in like the dedication part. That's kind of like the so what's going on.
I do think it's interesting. Like they actually have a quote from the robot's chosen speaker, which is Floor AB number 921, in declining the invitation to join human society as free citizens. All we have ever known is a life of human design, from our bodies to our work to the buildings we are housed in. We thank you for not keeping us here against our will, and we mean no disrespect to your offer, but it is our wish to leave your cities entirely so that we may observe that which has no design, the untouched wilderness.
And that's great that robots are like, you know what's the most interesting thing? Life. And we want to go look at it. And that's like cool.
Life uncontrolled.
So there are not really gods, but like not deities. What do you they have a lot of these things where they're like, what's the one for Dex? It's like the god of little pleasures or something?
Small comforts.
Small comforts.
Yeah, the god of small comforts.
So it's a future society, but it's very like, I don't know, hippie-ish, if you will. which is how like the only way to define it from our world. But it's one where they're very much into like recycling, solar power, using up sustainability. Thank you. Yes, sustainability.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is just how we live because it's like the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And like, if you want to go and be a monk and join a monastery, and they'll like teach you stuff and like let you live there. And then when you're done with that, you can go off and do other things and whatever. And so in the first chapter, we're introduced to Dex. And this is something that I entirely forgot about, Ben, but when you mentioned it last week, I was like, what? Dex is non-binary.
Right.
That's never, if I recall correctly, it's never really defined beyond that in the two books. No. And it doesn't need to be. And it's right. And it's accepted, and that's just how some people are. And
they do not declare their pronouns, but throughout the book it's their pronouns are they them,
And another bit is like the monks they call brother or sister, but Dex is called sibling. And like I didn't catch that the first time around, like sibling Dex, but now like I was like, oh, because they're non-binary but they're still respected as a monk, and so you're a sibling. Like, oh, okay, sibling is a non-binary word. That's great. I completely missed that first time around.
A small tangent of something I learned recently. There's a version of the Bible that was published in Europe. I don't know. At least definitely in the UK, where they took situations like that in the Bible where it would normally be, say, brother or something that was definitely a male reference, and they changed it to either brother, sister, or just sibling, like you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Just because I even think they go based on the original translation isn't even gender, or it's gender neutral. I think, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But the United States, the coalition of whatever the heck
white ladies,
assholes, made sure where did I hear this? They contacted the publisher and was like, we do not want you to publish that in the United States, and we will like some kind of agreement with them to like, you will never bring it to the United States, you will not publish it in the United States, it's violating the word of God, we don't want that here. So great.
Yeah, tolerant. That's what we are. There's a song by Bad Religion called American Jesus. It's a good one. You guys should listen to it. Anyways, thank you, Devon, for that tangent. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it's absolutely essential, though, this thought of, hey, here is a world where all of those like decisions that were made that don't make any sense, like, because, that this world made different decisions, and you get the opportunity to live in this world.
It's a kinder world.
Yeah, decisions that do include spirituality without hatred. The messiness that comes from needing to impose that spirituality on others.
Right. And if I remember correctly, later on in this book, or perhaps the next, there is like a more isolationist town that they come across, and even them, they're like, "Yeah, we want to be left alone." So, and everyone kind of just respects that, like, "Okay, that's fine. That's where you find your peace." Okay, then that's okay.
Yeah.
So
it's a peaceful friction.
Yeah.
There.
Exactly. So Dex is a monk, and Dex decides that they are no longer happy and they need a change. And
the first sentence: sometimes a person reaches a point in their life when it becomes absolutely essential to get the F out of the city.
Yes. And they are looking they're looking for the sound of crickets. Because within this world, there is like one big city, it seems, and that's where Dex lives, and they want to go back out to the country, if you will.
To get away from a never-ending harmony of making, doing, growing, trying, laughing, running, and living. Just let's listen to some crickets for once.
Yes. And so they go to their monastery leader person, and they're like, I want to get out of here. And they say, "Oh, all right, go for it." And so they have a caravan. What's it called?
They have a wagon.
A wagon.
made.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A wagon that is pulled by a bike, and they talk about all the things. Like it sounds like a shrunken down motorhome or something, right? Like it's got its own little power source and water, and it's got all the amenities that you would need to survive. And they want to do tea service, which we quickly learn in this first chapter is them going to a place, setting up, and saying, hey, let's talk and have some tea, because sometimes people need to talk and have tea. Doesn't quite go as planned.
Well, the first person comes up and says, and interacts in a way that they think is appropriate for a tea, for a tea monk, which is just spilling out, "Hey, my cat died yesterday, and I'm completely and utterly a wreck." And Dex is not prepared for this in many ways.
My relationship with my boyfriend is based on love of this cat. It's the only thing keeping us together.
Oh, rough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we also have to mention that the monastery was like, "Would you like some training?" And Dex was like, "Nah, I got this. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out."
And so,
how hard
Dex,
could it be?
how hard could it be? And so Dex is sitting there and has waited for hours for anybody to come by, and this is the first person who has. And turns out that they don't know what they're doing. They actually didn't, they set out a table but didn't set out any chairs.
Yeah.
They didn't have the type of tea that the woman had asked for.
Well, because she was allergic to one of the ingredients, and then all the teas that Dex had that one ingredient in it, except for the one that was like coffee or sea berry, except the one that had caffeine in it. And they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
It was a bad situation that then the rest of the chapter is Dex recovering from that and not just running home, even though they really want to.
Right. But, and kind of listening to the phrase of the God of small comforts has, which is find the strength to do both, which is an interesting, what that means in this world in Pangan culture. Everyone understands, but we, through the story, are going to find that out. What does find the strength to do both mean? And in this case, I imagine it's find the strength to both have the, get the skills to do something skillfully, as well as find a way to have comfort in the living.
Well, and it's also, and I don't remember, because I read this quite a while back. I don't remember if this is specifically talked about, but find the strength to do both could merely reference, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Don't just focus on this one thing. Open up, see the world around you, do the thing you want to do, but also the thing that you should be doing. Find the strength to do both. That could be part of it as well. So then the rest of the chapter goes through and Dex kind of does a hard reset of hey, I need to start from scratch. And what they had been doing at the monastery was gardening. And so they go to a local, farmer's market and says, "Hey, I want to buy all of your herbs." And this dude was like, "What?"
One of everything.
One of each. What'd you say? One of everything. And then this is where it's brought forth that technology is not alien to this environment, that she has was essentially a smartphone that is connected to accounts, and that's how she pays in pebbles. I think that's talked about more later, but pays for all these things, and goes back to her wagon and just starts a hydroponics farm in this thing, growing all these herbs and making her own tea, so that now she knows what this tea is, what it's for, what's inside of it, what the now she's truly becoming the tea monk. I'm sorry, I keep saying she. They, for some reason, Dex in my mind was female. when I first started reading the book, and so that is in my head, and I'm doing my best to not be that.
Gotcha.
So they farm as they're traveling to become this tea monk that they failed at being the first time, which I thought that was really interesting way to do this character.
And every little bit where you get like a little insight into how technology interacts with the rest of it. Like, for example, they show up to get one of each of the herbs, and like on the counter, there's a small placard that reads "My favorite reference guide," followed by a library stamp, which I'm assuming is some kind of QR code. And Dex scans the stamp with their computer and then downloads the book in question.
Yeah.
And which is just like, that's really cool. So like, my favorite reference guides being like a document that the herbalist had made that now is being shared as a way of like giving more information on how to use the things that they're going to pick up from this shop.
It's freely shared knowledge.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's kind of like what we were promised with the internet.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still out there, Stephen.
You just have to get around the paywalls.
It's not the part of the internet that feeds your dopamine addiction. True. It's the part where you have to actually scrounge for some things. I'm not talking about the pirate seas. I'm talking about like
there are libraries websites online that you can get to, and it's
that have information and opinions and ways to do things.
Oh yeah,
written in words and not in 3-second,
video clips. Trying to become viral. I saw something recently that was like, oh, I want to. It was like a kid saying like, I want to do a video so that I can go viral, and I'm like, that does nothing for you. Like let's say okay, now what?
Going viral.
Anyways,
you got to keep going viral if you want to like be successful. If you're trying to like make money off of it, you've got to keep producing content.
Yeah, doesn't that like refer to a system in which one organism like depletes the resources of the organism that they are infecting?
Yeah, social media.
Virus does. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the book because we're running out of time.
It's all the same thing, Stephen.
I know. Is that where do we leave off this chapter? Was it?
So yeah,
so about it. Like I mean, because I thought I might have missed something because when we were talking about different chapters and Audible and stuff, I'm like, if I'm wrong, they haven't met a robot yet, right? Where we're at.
Correct.
Yeah, they have not.
Because I kept thinking, I'm like, did I not read enough, or did I miss something? There's no robot yet.
They haven't
gotten there.
Yeah. It basically ends before a time jump, and the what ends up happening right at the end is just like, hey, the lower deck, because this Dex's caravan that they have, it has two stories. So the bottom story is where the kitchen is and everything, and they've turned that into a hydroponics bay that's just like overrunning with all of these different tea plants.
Right.
And upstairs is where they sleep. The upper deck is this serene place where they're not using it for storage. They're what they call it, sacred ground, where their bed is. And every night, Dex let their god hear a sigh of thanks as they climbed the ladder and collapsed into the embracing bed. They rarely used the lights up there, preferring instead to slide open the rooftop shade. They fell asleep in starlight, breathing in the muddled snap of 100 spices, listening to the gurgle of water pumps feeding happy roots in little pots. They never truly felt like they had a handle on what they were doing. They kept doing it all the same.
Yep. This book has such a unique vibe to it. And the story is propelled just like any other good story that I've written, but not with action, not with traditional action, but action nonetheless.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think the beginning of the next chapter is like Dex did this for 6 months, or like there is like a time jump.
After 2 years is how the next.
After 2 years,
begins.
yeah. So that's really like the dedication in chapter 1, A Change in Vocation, pretty much sets up the world and who Dex is, and then we're going to get into the story proper. So next week, book chapters 2 and 3. Ben, do you have the names of those chapters handy?
Yeah. So it starts. Chapter 2 is the best tea monk in Panga. Spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
And then the third chapter is splendid speckled moss cap.
Aha, got it. So yeah, those 2 chapters will really get us going with the story and what's going on. So, what did you guys? I mean, Ben, you and I, we love this book. Devon, this is your first time reading this. What do you think of this book with what little of it you've read?
I mean, there's not much to base it on. I like the setting, the way the world is built. I'm interested to see what happens. So yeah, I like it. There's not a lot to really discuss so far. I'm assuming once they meet the robot, there's more of like a dialogue about, different things that should be interesting.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
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 that is definitely.
So yeah, I feel like this is all kind of like the introduction, world building.
Cool. Awesome.
Like
all
it.
right. So next week, more Monk and Robot, or the Psalm for the Wild Built. The second book is called A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and when you look it up online, they just call it, book 2 in the Monk and Robot series. I have no idea if she's going to write more. And these are shorter books, so I hope more, because I would like more.
Are there just 2 in the series
So far.
so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They and these are definitely shorter than anything in the Wayfarer series.
It's like 150 pages or something.
It's a little bit longer than the novella we read of Becky Chambers recently, which is escaping my.
But
to be taught,
if fortunate.
If fortunate, that's right.
If fortunate, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a little bit longer than that, but not by much. This book and the next one.
Excellent.
And, yeah.
All right.
I'm stoked to read it again, because boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the I know that the way that you described it to me, Stephen, that really touched a part of my head that made me go, oh yeah, I want to read that, was describing it as cozy punk.
Yeah, for sure. This is it's like reading this book and now reading it for a second time. It feels like being wrapped up in a warm blanket and experiencing things. It's pretty unique. I have not read a book like these 2 books ever. Pretty darn cool.
Same.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up there, because we have done this enough. Same time, same channel next week, I believe. We are getting into the summertime now, dad-wise. And that's going to be trying times ahead for having kids not in school.
Yeah, I remember I saw this. There's like a poster that was put up around a local elementary school that was like, from the teachers, parents, tag, you're it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well, we'll get through it.
And every year is different, right? I'll tell you that my soon to be 12-year-old, he desperately wants just to be left alone to his own devices. And some days, some hours, that is something that we can share. But no, he's got to be part of our little society here in this home. So yeah.
Sorry, Flint. One of us. One of us.
You poor thing. You're part of the family.
All right, Devon, you have any final thoughts for us about animal testing? No? Okay, good. Ben, any last words?
You ever wonder who the most useless Jedi is? I'm pretty sure it's Mannequin Skywalker. He just stands there.
Good night, everybody.
This has been the Science Faction Podcast. Tweet to the host at SciFact Podcast. Email them at sciencefactionpodcast@gmail.com and visit sciencefactionpodcast.com for more episodes.